This is the second episode. This is the podcast where we don't censor anything and we don't filter anything, but you're probably wondering, but Dahlia, it looks like it was edited. And it is, because I don't want to bore you. I don't want it to be a 2-hour podcast. And I'm pretty sure you don't want that either. So we just condense it in terms of time, but everything that is critical and important is in there. And I make sure that my guests feel welcome and not censored. And we hope to continue that moving forward. So today we have with us Esmahan. She is an amazing person who creates these amazing designs, jewelry designs, which we'll get into a little bit of that later. So welcome, Esmahan.
Thank you so much, Dali, for having me. It's such an honor to be in your podcast and having me today. So I'm quite excited.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm happy to have you here. You are the owner, entrepreneur, the one, the only Esmahan who owns Buno Design. It's an amazing line, and I'll get you to talk a little bit about that in a bit. But first, I also want to say that it is Black History Month. But with that being said, we want to ensure that Black voices are heard all the time and not just for the month of February. So I want to preface by saying that because I didn't bring Esmahan here just because it's Black History Month. But, you know, it is an addition. We are not some sort of big company that just does PR and does this once a month. So that's not the goal here. I genuinely believe in what you do and I love it. This is not sponsored, not an ad. We met about probably a couple of years ago. Came across your jewelry. I found it very unique. It disconnects, like it's magnetic. You folks can't see this, but I'll show a little bit more of this later. Esmahan, take it away. What made you want to be a jewelry designer, own your own business? Tell me a little bit about your journey as a visible Muslim woman, but also a Black woman.
Okay. Actually, my journey with the jewelry design, it's actually a self-taught skill. I was never a designer in a jewelry field. I have a bachelor's in arts. I have specialized in textile design, specifically weaving. I moved from the UK in 2008 to be with my husband in Canada. So when I moved here, there were no creative jobs back in then in Alberta, specifically Edmonton. And creativity is part of my soul. That's where I live. So I didn't want to I was working alongside that. I wanted to create something that I can actually keep on going. And back in 2012, after I gave birth to my son, we started Buno Design as actually an ethical clothing company with my sisters. But moving here and having the kids, the logistics was a nightmare to keep on with the clothing because we were making in Turkey in a sustainable and an ethical studio there. So 2018 hit and my late father, Allah yarhamu, he passed away. And making jewelry has been my outlet to help me with this grief. And I'm so happy that I've stuck with it. And it helped me so much to heal.
I'm happy you stuck with it too. And I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your father. I can't even imagine how difficult that is. Tell me a little bit about Buno. What does it even mean? Does it have a meaning for it? And also, I mean, your designs are unique and there is story behind it. It's not just some cool jewelry that disattaches. And I mean, it is unique. I will say it can be long. And if you're like me, I like my things to be short. So it's also, it works well for everyone. So I love your designs, but yeah, tell us a little bit more about it.
The name Buno actually came from, it means so much to me. My grandfather, my dad's dad, his nickname was Buno. So his real name is Abdullah. But in Somalia, we have nicknames. Every family has a name that are known. My dad has only 3 girls. It's me and my 2 sisters. And he was always teased for having just female, offsprings. And he was teased that they will not carry your name and you don't have a son. So when we created our company, we were like, well, who's gonna take the name internationally? People, sit down.
Yes, the ladies and feminism. So
yes, my father was very proud man to have daughters, and he always said, nothing can stop you this world except here. With what he meant, what do you believe about yourself? So we purposely named our company to carry his legacy and my grandfather, and to prove people that you can be a woman and carry names. That's nothing to do with what gender you. My designs are actually part of my identity. I am born in Somalia. My parents are Somalians, and we have a Yemeni background too. We lived in Kenya for a little bit, and then we went to Kuwait, and then we lived in England, and I'm here now. So what shaped me as my identity. So I try to bring all that to my designs so I can promote different cultures and who I am.
You even have a specific name for this specific necklace. I don't know if you want to talk about it just as an example of some of
the
stuff.
Queen Kendaki, and that's a historical site. And when we talk about Black history, we don't see a lot of historical women celebrated in our mainstream education system. And I always wanted to bring in a more creative way to teach about these amazing women that have made so many contributions, and what would be better way than what I know the best, which is designing. So in each piece you will get a historical part of who this woman is and who that, just so that people are open eyes what Africa means. And a lot of people talk about Africa as though it's a country. We're a continent.
Yeah.
Full of culture. It frustrates me.
I know. I'm sure you get this just as much as I do, being Egyptian. But someone will talk and they'll be like, "Oh, I went to Africa," and I'm like, "It's not a country. Like, where in Africa did you go?"
Or I would love to go to Africa, and I'm like, "Where?"
Oh, it's a really big continent. So yeah, I mean, so kudos to you. You incorporated culture, history, and your own family lineage. It's an ode to your family, to your father, your grandfather, but also you managed to tie in the power and the beauty of women and what we can do, and also history. So that's really cool. I guess my next question would be, have you run into any, and I'm sure you have, but if you could share, what challenges have you run into as an entrepreneur, but specifically as a Black Muslim woman?
Coming into this field, I didn't know a lot of places where Black women were represented. So when I went to my first market, I didn't see people that looked like me, either the designer and the makers, or the patron as well, the people who were coming to buy this stuff. And it made me think, I was like, okay, maybe I don't have a market for this place. But then I was like, oh, maybe I could be the leader to start this, and then people will come. And honestly, my first collection was purely African inspired designs, and I sold so well, which gave me the idea of actually there is a market, but how we represent and how we build these tables are not built for us, and be in spaces that we might not see ourselves. The biggest struggle I faced was trying to find fundings or collaborating with big companies. And then 2020 hit, and all of a sudden the whole Black Lives Matters happened, and I've had giant corporation reaching out and wanted to collaborate and wanted to put us in on the map. And then a year later, things just died out, and that was a big shift.
I noticed this, and maybe because of, being a journalist for a big portion of my adult life, but just I'm very conscious and aware of what happens around me typically. What I noticed, and I'm seeing it time and time again, is social media can be so great. And then we're not going to get too deep into this because it's a whole other topic that I'll delve into another episode, hopefully. But, we are noticing that unfortunately people's plight has become a trend. And I'm wondering, and based off of what you're saying, is that something basically you've encountered? Because you said that BLM, it was always an organization. Like, that's another thing that I don't think people really understand here in Toronto. Black Lives Matter always had an organization here, but after George Floyd, really, I think is when it really blew up. COVID happened, everybody was at home, and you're saying that you saw that the sales started increasing within that time, and then it went plummeted again.
Yeah, I've had the biggest sale of my business was 2020. I've had the biggest collaboration 2020, and it felt 2021, 2022 until now, that was tokenism. It wasn't a genuine support, because companies wanted to tick a boxes and just say, hey, look, I'm supporting a Black woman, I am supporting, and I'm doing this, because it is only a small portion of those companies that reached out, that stayed and kept going on their support. But the majority have disappeared, and I feel now that within the political climate that we're going through, we're going backward. We are taking, even just to say the word diversity and supporting is just becoming something that companies are shying from, because they are trying not to even come across that. So it's frustrating that we're going backward.
It's frustrating, especially when you've worked so hard on something and then all of a sudden it's almost like you're being used and discarded at the convenience of money, and capitalism is really what it comes down to, right? It's just another box for these companies essentially to tick off. And in response to that, what would you want to say to these corporations or to society as a whole, or anyone who's watching, in response to what you've dealt with and what you've encountered regarding being an entrepreneur?
Just because something is not trending doesn't mean I stop being Black. Just because social media is not talking about our struggles and our day-to-day living experience of being visible minority doesn't die away. And if you really and genuinely care about the community, I think to celebrate us across the year. I even honestly say, I go further to say, I would want, my dream is to see a year there's no Black History Month, because Black History Month was created to bring up, so to see the history of Black people, celebrate them, but it was never intended to be a permanent thing, because to not celebrate Black History Month means we have incorporated this history and we're celebrating diversity throughout the year, and it just becomes the norm. And it's not just when we're given a short period of amount of time and then we move on. I cannot move on of who I am. I cannot move on or the struggles that I'm facing. So if your support is genuine, then it will carry on.
It seems pretty performative, right? Like, oh, let's just create this month. And okay, what happens after this month? It's not like Black people disappear. It's not like your identity is something that you can pick once a year in the month of February and then take that hat off. No, it's something that it's your lived experience, right? So that's a great message, I think, that you shared. And I hope people watch this, take notes, but that being said, moving forward, what can we expect for Esmahan, for Buno Design? What do you have coming up for your plans?
So I've had a dream for the past 5-6 years. I've been putting this project on the back burner because I was running the business. I work at school, and I'm a parent too, so I have 2 kids. I always wanted to be an art studio. I'll open an art studio for children, specifically children with, like I said, I don't call them with the special needs. I call them with the special powers. I have a gifted son, and he's the one who inspired me to work at a school, to understand how these children and their brain works and what they have. I want to have a studio space where these kids are celebrating who they are and their diversity. We do not have that in the mainstream education, where a kid could, after school clubs where they have Eid celebration going on, or Eid art, or anything that represents who they are. And my dream is to have that safe space to welcome these children. And I love it. I never thought I would be a teacher, because that was not what I planned, but life takes you to different spaces, right?
And it's a great initiative. So do you have like a center already picked out and a day that you're going to start teaching, or is this,
I haven't all those small details, but I've bought courses where how to set up my studio. And the blessing part is, subhanAllah, because I've never planned to work at school, and I was brought in a very weird way because of, like I said, my gifted son, and I wanted to understand the Canadian system and how it works. And as a Black child, honestly, nobody gives you everything on a silver spoon. Now I have found out a different skill, a passion that I never even thought I had. So to put my artistic and creativity with supporting a child to go to their creative mindset as well, it's like a blessing, alhamdulillah. So that's
mashallah, that's amazing. Mashallah, it's amazing. And I wish you all the continued success and blessings for you and your children. I'm sure they're so proud of you.
I'm trying to teach my boys, when you don't see the change that you want to see, you become the change maker. So alhamdulillah, during the pandemic, they made a video about Eid and Ramadan, and then it was shared all throughout the school, because they felt that that wasn't celebrated. So part of my goal and dream is to raise boys who are proud of who they are, whether their Canadian identity, or they're being Muslim or being Black. So I am doing this so they can be inspired and see that. So at school, I talk about this, I share my ideas, and alhamdulillah, I've had the support it's baby steps, and we're going to get there. And I feel like sometimes now my job is not anymore a job. It's more of something that I need to change, and I need to make those changes because I don't think it's my job to bring those changes, but I think if I can even have part of that journey and see that and what I can bring to, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, and I mean, they do say be the change you want to see in the world. And I mean, not to say that, that's a whole other topic too, which we could delve into another day, but not to say that like we are always the people that everybody needs to come to and I need to provide all the information. It's also their responsibility. Whether it's a corporation or a school system, the systematic change needs to happen from, these systems. But also, like you said, if we're not going to see necessarily being done, well, then we have to do something about it. So kudos to you. Like I said, I bet your kids are really proud, and I'm proud of everything you're doing. I mean, you do set the example. You started off doing this, you showed that you can do it, and anything is possible. What advice would you have back to, some of the, not to make the challenges the focus, because you've achieved so much, and I want to recognize that too, right? But for anyone who might be struggling, who might be in a similar position, whether she's a visible Muslim or not, a Black woman, I think is more, or someone who is racialized, essentially, minority, whatever word you want to put on it. If you're in a similar circumstance, someone who's watching this, what advice would you have for them?
If you can't find that table, build it. Shake the system, shake the boat, make the changes that you need to make. And the days that you feel, I have had times when I felt like, oh, I want to throw the towel and just give it up. But then I'm thinking, no, we've made such a progress that we cannot go back, and have that goal that one day this will all pay off. And alhamdulillah, I feel like just seeing my boys being proud of what I do or carrying on is teaching them. It's never going to be easy, but you are your own. You have that power. Do not let someone else have the power to take away from what you're trying to achieve. And ask for help when you need to ask for help.
Thank you so much, Esmahan. I'm going to continue to keep up with all your continued success, inshallah. I feel like I need to have like a little glossary for anybody who's watching who's not Muslim. Inshallah means if God wills it. Alhamdulillah means thanks to God. I swear I need to put like a little glossary, but I know that you understand and what I'm saying. But yeah, inshallah, I wish you all the success in the world for you and your family. And thanks so much again for joining me today on the platform.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be part of your new journey as well as an independent journalist, and to see people who are working toward the truth and not just being part of this big corporation that we've seen what the mass media is going on. So I'm going to follow your journey too. And inshallah, we'll probably do another one once I open my studio. You can hold me accountable. I let it out. Today I have done a vision board, and that's been on my board. So I'm trying to just get out and do what I need to do.
I love that. Thank you so much for all your kind words. And yes, you have done now literally a vision board. So it's on YouTube. We're going to hold you accountable, and I would love to have you back again. Thank you so much for joining. Anybody watching, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because you want to know what's next on the platform. We have episodes that are coming up every Sunday at 6 p.m. And hopefully with time, we'll have more episodes a week, but that's what we have been on right now. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and turn that notification bell, and we'll see you again.